This morning we have a early 2000, maybe an 04 Buick LeSabre. Front brakes just need to be changed for a friend, so we're gonna do a quick video. There she is. Did this side already. Definitely needed to be done on the inside. The outside wasn't horrible, but always loosen them first and jack them up. Easier on your transmission. So the other side didn't want to come right away, so just heat them up quick. Make sure nothing rubber is gonna get burned. I like to do that about 30 seconds. Comes off like butter. Bottom one is usually a little bit harder, just because it gets more salt in it. So that top pin is greased pretty good. That's good. So this bottom is in a lot better shape. This area was all rusted out on the other side. Pitted a little bit, but not too bad. I put it back in. Yeah, that's a good time to change them. The outside is pretty good yet. That rotor feels pretty good. The other side had some grooving inside because obviously this was a little bit on metal, but it wasn't too bad. So then this style has these little clips that are right there. Make sure, obviously that's not rotted out. These are still good, which is good because the new pads were cheap ones and didn't come with that clip. But these clips look fine. So I'll just blow them out. Make sure there's no little bits of rust in there. And then I like to put just a little bit of anti-seize in there. And people may disagree with that. Try not to get any on the caliper, but if you do, it'll burn off. Get a little bit on there. Keep that pad moving freely back and forth. Do that on the inside. And of course, that stuff is good for your fingers too, good for your skin. Yeah, it's always good to have a rag or, pants that are a good rag. Grab your new pads. I'm not sure what the technical correct way to do this, but I always like the little scraper bar to be on the downside. That way, if it ever came off, it would just shoot out instead of if you had it on the top, it could get stuck in there maybe. I don't know. Makes sense to me. That's how I do it. Set that in there. Make sure they're moving back and forth freely. And then we just got to compress the cylinder. I know technically you're supposed to use the bleeder valve and everything. You probably should. I'm not going to today. I'm just going to push it back into the system. I know, I'm horrible. There's probably a specialized tool for that. C-clamp works good, because then you can get it right in there and centered. Get that right in centered. Get right up and set it on top. Just make sure you're in the middle of the cylinder so it pushes it back evenly. You should be able to feel it and see it going back in. If it's binding, stop. Don't keep pushing it. You'll score the inside of the cylinder wall and damage your caliper. If it won't go back in, you probably need a new caliper. And be careful not to push this in too far or the seal will pop out. I put it back within probably 3 millimeters out from the body of the caliper. That should be enough clearance to get over the new pads. There we go, slips over. Those little rubber shields back there are gonna get pushed back. So once you get it, I found it's easiest, slip it on, then pull off 1/2 because you're already over the pads. Use a little flathead screwdriver, compress that rubber shield down, and then slip it back. Pull your screwdriver out, and the rubber should be centered. Now I'm also going to take these stud bolts, put another layer of anti-seize. These threads already have some grease on them from last time. Might put a splash of anti-seize on them, but mostly I want this to move because this allows the caliper to move back and forth and wear evenly, if that makes sense. Have to wiggle it around. You're through that rubber thing, then once that pin is in, do the same. Pull the bottom half off a little bit, compress that rubber shield with the screwdriver, slip it back on. Should be centered enough for that bolt to wiggle through, and then that rubber shield will do a pretty good job of centering itself. Just make sure it's not bunched up anywhere and should be good to go. And wiggle it around. There we go. So just pull forward as you're starting to thread. Be careful you don't cross them. There we go. Run it all the way in. Don't tighten that one yet. Make sure you can get the bottom one started first. And you're done. Throw the wheel back on. These lug nuts are 19 millimeters. I do have a cordless impact wrench that I will use, but I always start them by hand. Then you never cross thread. And I like to tighten by hand. I trust my feel. Snug it in a cross pattern. Then put the weight back on the tire. Then tighten in a cross pattern. And then I like to go around one more time or 2 more times clockwise and test the torque. If they're all good, I stop there. If a couple I had to tighten more, I'll go around again just to make sure all the torque's the same. Like I said, I do it by feel. I'm sure you can look up specs if you want technical torque specs. These being aluminum wheels, they should be retorqued after 50 miles because aluminum will expand and contract with the weather. This one, you got the little screwdriver tab and match that to the tab on the wheel. Good to go. Start up the car. Press your brake pedal a couple times till they get firm. Make sure they stay firm. Then go out. Stop slow a couple times. Just make sure everything's working before you take off and you're good to go. Think we covered everything? Okay, goodbye.